But for the most part, they were content with just the 1-0 lead, sitting back and seeing if anything happened. They weren't really looking for that 2-0, or maybe they were and they couldn't, which would be worse, to be honest, if they were actually trying to go get that second goal and they were just getting pushed back by Serbia. But it kind of felt like it was a tactical decision to let them come in and then try to get the counter. The only thing is that the counter wasn't fruitful, wasn't productive, it wasn't dangerous. And welcome back to the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. My name's Ismael San Juan. Thank you so much for being here. England make their Euro debut. They do not look like legit title contenders. It looks like if they face a strong team, they will get beat. But that's just game one, so we'll see how they do. Also, Alcaraz wins his first Roland Garros. He's the youngest player to win a Grand Slam in all three surfaces. So what does that mean for him? How good is he better than Nadal at that age? Did Zverev give the game away? We'll touch on that. And today, the Mavs continue to try to do the impossible. They're down 3-1. Can they steal a game in Boston to send it back to Dallas? All of that on this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. Let's get started. Man, oh man. England finally make their Euro debut. How do they look? Honestly, I think that they were disappointing. 1-0 victory over Serbia. Good goal by Bellingham. Hala Madrid, obviously Madrid players showing up as always. But after that, not too many chances. They didn't really create too many chances. They didn't have long stretches of possession. They didn't really look dangerous going up. Only a couple other chances. Bowen, when he came in, he had a nice cross that Kane got to the end of it. Keeper made a fantastic save, pushed it towards the goalpost, and then it went out. Other than that, maybe one or two other half chances, and that's about it. Foden didn't look good. He was losing the ball. He was playing more essentially. Maybe they should try him out wide. He didn't look too comfortable. Saka was a little dangerous, but not too much end product. Kane was, in my opinion, abysmal, which is, I understand he's a number 9. People are like, oh, Kane is just waiting for his penalty. And I get that. I see that. But as a number 9, he's an all-around player. So, for the most part, he does drop down and create. But number 9's responsibility is to be in the box, wait for crosses, be a poacher. And if your team's not creating chances, then, there's not too much you could do. Could he have made better runs? Check in a little better? Yeah, probably. But, that's the life of a number 9 sometimes. If you're not getting fed, there's not much you could do. You're a number 9. You're limited to what your team can create for you. So I don't put all that blame on Kane. But I will say this. I will say Kane's lack of speed is very evident, especially on these national team games. For some reason, you could just tell, you just imagine how England would look if they had a pacey striker in the top. Kane is a dog, being a poacher and knowing where to be, and he knows how to score goals. But every time I watch England, I'm like, damn, right now that they're not having a lot of possession, because England concedes possession a lot sometimes. Serbia was definitely taking it to them. They were the dominant team in the second half, I would say. They created a lot of chances, a lot of half chances, a lot of crosses into the box that no one was getting to the end of it. But I was thinking, what would happen if right now that England's getting pushed back a little bit? How would it look if they had a pacey striker up top, ready to take the top off, ready to stretch the defense? That threat of a pacey striker on the counterattack, how would it look? Obviously, they're not going to bench Kane. He's their captain, and he's probably the most individually decorated player right now. He's finished close to the Ballon d'Oro, I guess, and he's had 20, 30 plus goal seasons. So he's earned his spot, but you could tell that he's a little slow. The defense is probably going to be an issue for England in the Euros if Serbia is creating these many half chances and chances against you. It might be ugly when you play France, Germany, Spain, Portugal even. It could. I don't know. Serbia created too many chances for my liking. Southgate, I think he lets his team drop back too much. You're England. You got the 1-0 lead. You're playing ahead. Like, you don't have to sit back and invite Serbia. I mean, you could, and you could go for the counterattack, but you could also just go punish them. And I think England didn't have that mentality yesterday on day 3 of the Euros. They didn't have the mentality to go close the game out. They had a couple chances, like I said, but for the most part, they were content with just the 1-0 lead, sitting back and seeing if anything happened. They weren't really looking for that 2-0, or maybe they were and they couldn't, which would be worse, to be honest, if they were actually trying to go get that second goal and they were just getting pushed back by Serbia. But it kind of felt like it was a tactical decision to let them come in and then try to get the counter. The only thing is that the counter wasn't fruitful, wasn't productive, it wasn't dangerous. So, to be honest, the second half, it kind of just looked like Serbia was like any minute they're gonna have a chance, or like it was dangerous. Like, if I was an English fan, I was probably sweating that second half. I was a neutral. I was at a bar with mostly English fans, but it was you could definitely tell that there was some tension. There was a little bit of doubt if England could hold on to that game. Pickford. I think the defense and Pickford are going to be the downfall. There was a couple balls where Pickford could have gotten to it and he just like punches it, or like he pushes it out. And I'm like, bro, just pick up the ball. Not going to lie, I think that was a penalty for Serbia in the second half. It was minimal contact, but the defender did stretch his foot out in front of him and he tumbled. And I was like, bro, like, the fact that they didn't even send the ref to go look at that was kind of sketch, not going to lie. Now, I don't want to keep bringing it back to this tournament and this team, but Argentina got penalties for less contact in the World Cup. Like, the Di Maria penalty in the second half, in the World Cup final, that was like the slightest freaking grace of the foot, and he fell and they called it. This was more contact than that. Searching for a ball, searching for a cross in front of the goal. More contact, you trip him, he falls down, he's not able to get to the end of it. I don't know. I thought it was a penalty. I could see how maybe it's not, it's minimal contact, but I always just get flashbacks to the World Cup and some of the minimal, tiniest contact that Argentina was getting PKs for. And I'm like, you guys set the precedent in the grandest stage of them all. Like, so I just keep thinking about that. And if we're going by that rule book, then that was a penalty. So, feel bad for Serbia. They didn't protest it too much, so we'll see. What do you guys think? Was that a penalty? I don't know. Maybe I'm just salty from Argentina as a Mexico fan because they always eliminate us from the World Cup. But overall, pretty mediocre appearance from England. I was watching it on Fox, or the bar was showing it on Fox, and Landon Donovan was like, sometimes you have these games where you get these rough stretches where the team pins you back, and it's a good exercise. It's good for England to get out of this game with a 1-0 victory if they're able to hold on. And it just felt like Donovan was talking about England as if they were one of the USA teams that Donovan was in back in the day. Like, oh, like, we got to just use grit and get through the game sometimes. And it's a good exercise. I'm like, bro, this is England with Bellingham, with Foden, with Saka, with Declan Rice. Like, all of these players valued over $100 million. All these players being like stars in the Premier League, the supposedly best league in the world. You got Bellingham, 20 years old, won Champions League with Real Madrid. You got Declan Rice, $100 million to Arsenal. Saka, the face of Arsenal. Foden, one of the best English prospects in a while, leading or a main cog in Manchester City, regarded as the best or the second best team in Europe. Kane, who's like one of the most prolific strikers in England's history. You got so many good players on there for you to be talking about England. Like, some games you just got to get through it. Like, especially how all the other teams looked, like Germany and Spain, like, I don't buy that sentiment that sometimes you just got to get through it. I mean, it's good that they got the dub, but I would have liked to see more from England. Alcaraz wins his first Roland Garros. He defeats Zverev in 5 sets. Oh man, I think that was a great match. To be honest, I watched the whole thing. I got up, I watched it, and man, it was great. I thought Zverev was out after going down 2-1. I was like, he's cooked. And gotta give him credit. He fought. He pushed it to the 5th. And then in the fifth, like, yeah, there was that ref call where, it could have gone, if he calls it right, maybe Zverev breaks back or he gets back into the fifth set. But overall, I think Zverev kind of choked that away. I mean, who's to say he would have won? Maybe not, but it would have been a tighter match if his double faults and like his forehand didn't just fade away the fifth like it usually does. Like, come on, like Zverev, I think he hadn't done a double fault since the match started, and then he double faulted in the fifth, and it was just like, bro, here we go, Zverev choking again, U.S. Open final, like against theme, like it's gonna happen again. I was in Australia when it happened this year. He was up 2-0 on Medvedev, and then he chokes 3-2. He loses three sets. He loses three sets in a row against Medvedev, but he choked the 2-0 lead, 2-0 set lead this year in the Australian Open. So I was like, here we go, Zverev. Here you go again, choking. Obviously, overall, before we get to Alcaraz, just good tournament by Zverev. Like the fact that he freaking fractured his ankle there, just 2 years time, and now he's in the final, and he had a competitive final, and he pushed Alcaraz to 5 sets when everybody probably was going into that final thinking Alcaraz was gonna beat him in four probably or three even. Sometimes some people were saying it's good for Zverev. He's playing good tennis right now. I do believe he's gonna go to the Olympics, and he's the defending gold medalist, so maybe he's able to defend. He is good on clay, and it is at Roland Garros, so he might be able to get the double. He could be following that Murray trajectory. He gets 2 gold medals, maybe he gets a couple slams here and there, and that's a great career. So I think Zverev is on the way up, and he needs to close. He needs to close. He needs to get better at closing. And to Alcaraz, he's a dog, dude. He's Carlitos, youngest player ever to win 3 slams or a slam on each surface, grass, clay, and hard court. Even before Nadal. Is he better than Nadal at 21 years old? Man, I don't know. I wasn't really there when Nadal was 21, but just looking at the stats, looking at all the Masters, same amount of slams, but Nadal has way more Masters just because he was so dominant on clay. Yeah, that's a hard one. But like I said, Alcaraz is still early in his year 21, so he could rack up a couple more. He could win Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and then really set himself as the best 21-year. I would still give the edge to Nadal, but it's close, and the fact that it's close with Nadal being one of the players that came on the strongest and was established as an elite player like at such an early age for Alcaraz to even make it a conversation and be in that discussion is insane by Alcaraz. Like, that talent is ridiculous. I will say that final, he showed his mental fortitude. He showed that he has won slams before. That was one of the topics going into the final, that Zverev has never done it. And the thing in the back of his head is that he choked the last time he was in a final. He choked against Dominic Thiem. So maybe that's why he double faulted, but Alcaraz has different memories of Grand Slam finals. U.S. Open champion, Wimbledon champion. So it's different for him. He's beaten Ruud. He's beaten Djokovic. He's won finals. So you could tell the experience. Even though Alcaraz is 21 years old, you could tell the difference in experience, the difference in I've done it and you haven't. And shout out to Alcaraz. What a fucking dog. What a fucking dog, dude. He's elite. I wish him the best in the Olympics. It is confirmed that he's going to play doubles with Nadal, so that's must-watch TV. Nadal and Alcaraz doubles in the Olympics. It's going to be insane. The Mavs absolutely obliterate the Celtics in Game 4. Beat them, throughout. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. They were the dominant team. Luka and Kyrie didn't play the fourth. That's how great they were. They were just on them. Luka, 25 first quarter points, ended with 29. That's all he needed. The role players were... It was just a sight to behold. The Mavs were literally firing on all cylinders, and the Celtics just looked like they were ready to go home and finish it at the Garden. I will say this. You can't take away too much from that game because, like people have pointed out, the Celtics could have thought that they had this wrapped up. It could also be in the back of their head that, like, let's go wrap it up at home. Let's go finish. Let's go win the championship at home in front of our fans. I don't think they were thinking that, but that's a valid, that's a valid reasoning. That's a valid thought process if you think that. So as much as I want to give the Mavs credit or props, as much as I want to give the Mavs props, I can't right now because they were in a 3-0 hole. The Celtics were playing with house money. They were playing with like a lot of certainty and security that, they have 3 more games after this to close this game out. So I can't give the Mavs too much credit. Like you're down 3-0. It's a great, impressive win. You didn't get swept, but at the end of the day, that's all it is. I can't give them bonus points for mopping the floor with them. I can't. I just gotta give them credit for not getting swept. That's when you're down 3-0. That's the most credit you could get for your first victory. Now, if the Mavs win today and they send it back to Dallas and it's 3-2, then we can start talking about giving the Mavs credit about making this a series. Then we can start talking about Boston getting a little nervous and, this series being a little iffy. We got to see how Kristaps is doing. The second half of Game 3 and all of Game 4, Mavs have the edge. They did that comeback, or maybe if you just want to look at the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter of Game 3 up to the whole game of Game 4, it's been Mavs. I don't know if they figured something out, but the last 5 quarters, the Mavs have looked like the most dominant team. Now, Boston, before the finals, they have been struggling at home. They were not a good home team. And this is not just this postseason. This is going back, too. So, can they maybe stumble today and they go to a Game 6 in Dallas? They could. It is possible. So, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they do. If they're able to close it out, then it's a moot point, and all Dallas did was not get swept. If the Celtics don't close it out today, then it becomes a problem. Then we could actually start talking about the Mavs maybe doing history. But till then, good for the Mavs on not getting swept. I didn't want the finals to be a 4-0. They stopped that. They get a good dub, an impressive dub. Now let's see if they can go into Boston and get that pivotal second victory, send it back to Dallas. I hope they do. I hope they make it a series, but we'll see. The Celtics are a good team. But that should do it for this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. As always, I appreciate it if you make it to the end. Have a great rest of your day. Watch the Euros. Watch the finals. Have a great day. Peace. No sudden moves on my goons are stretching, and I'm taxing for the feet on my damn collections.